What's going on, everybody, and welcome to week number 2 of the Amazon EU Masters. My name is Butchballs. I'm joined by Dagda. And, last time you saw us, we were a lot closer together. I've come back to England. Dagda, you're so far away. I feel so distant.
I know. How are we supposed to be just like reunited soon, though? It'll be all right. Don't worry. We got this weekend coming up. We'll be back together. I'll fly over especially to see you, all right?
Okay, well, I'll see you soon. But first, we've got some games coming up. And it's been a banger of an EU Masters so far, right? We've already finished week number 1. That was a few days ago. We actually have some replays of what happened on Sunday's games because, man, as always here at the Amazon EU Masters, it was a hell of a day.
Yeah, Ego Rogue managed to take down Eintracht Spandau, looking pretty damn good as they did so. And I think it's been exceptional to kind of see Ego Rogue as they kind of move back through the split as well, being able to take that second place, not able to beat down Vitality B, so it means that they're sitting at 2-1, but we'll have to see if they can keep it up.
Yeah, X7 as well, having a pretty great series for themselves, and crucially now, still maintaining their lossless streak here in the EU Masters, and that's having a great job on the Zaya there, and Sanity doing his best, but unfortunately, that's too many feathers to deal with. It was definitely a chaotic game, that has to be said, but X7 showing that this is a team to be feared.
Yeah, and I definitely think a lot of people kind of looking at this team in a different light after they were able to take down Carmine Corp as well over the course of the week. So I think a lot of people kind of giving due respect to this squad as well. And we have Bifrost as well, who were able to come in and take down their opposition. And I just love, again, how hectic these teams fights were, but just about Bifrost able to take that one.
That's literally what I was about to say as well, like how chaotic all of these clips are and how much of this comes down to mechanical play as well. I feel like almost every clip we get to see these players popping off individually and finding the big outplays, just like we just saw Wondro do there.
Yeah, exactly. Vitality B taking themselves into the 2-1 spot, not particularly able to get themselves up again to that 3-0. So I think they are sitting at the 3-0, but I think for Vitality B, for the LFL in general, like they are going to be super happy with the way that their performances have gone thus far.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams going to be happy with how it's going, as we've got 3 teams 3-0 at the top of their groups, but still a lot to play for over the course of this week. And as you can see, K-Corp managing to get themselves a win towards the end of last Sunday. And then our final replay, I believe, was Fnatic managing to finish things off, managing to get themselves a game on the board as well.
Yeah, great to see them able to work through this like strong mid jungle with the Volibear and the Blanc, and able to kind of set up being in that bot side to take over. It just felt like they had such a good understanding of how they wanted to approach the game in that regard.
Yeah, fantastic stuff coming out from Fnatic TQ. And with Sunday's games under wraps, before we jump into today's games, we've got a cheeky little pre-show interview. So I'm going to welcome Gabbo to the stream as well from Atleta. And straight off the bat, Gabbo, I want to ask you, because every single day I'm watching the intro to the Amazon EU Masters, and every single day I see your Gnar clip where you use the stopwatch, turn it around and get the kill onto the Jinx. Like, man, that's got to feel good. Watching your own outplay time and time again with the cool editing and stuff, that's got to be a superstar moment.
Yeah, absolutely. The montage or like the work they did in that video is incredible. Like I really enjoyed it. I can't deny I watched it many times as well. I'm sad I cannot do the same right now. I mean, I was not able yet to do like some kind of like big play in your Masters yet, but maybe it will change today.
So you've been to EU Masters now a couple of times. Like, what is kind of the learnings that you've taken away from it every time? Because it feels like when you're going up against some of the best that Europe has to offer, you've got to be able to take some learnings from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming from like a minor region or like minor IRL, like Italy, it's always like hard to try and get out of the group. But even like we are 0-3 now, and obviously we are not like top contenders for this group. But it didn't feel like we were like absolutely demolished by the other teams. And I would say that we are always taking something from them. And yeah, hopefully, like after the preparation and after like experiencing the stronger teams last week, we will be able to like do some upsets today, you know.
All right, well, fingers crossed. We're looking forward to some upsets, mate. Good luck in your games today. You got 3 left, and I'm hoping against hope for you. I'm hoping we get to see some cheesy stuff on the rift. Thank you so much for the interview, mate, and good luck in your games today. with that said,
Bye bye, guys. Thanks for having me.
with the show. Thanks very much. With all of that said, we're going to crack on with our show. Our games are flying towards us. So let's look at the standings of where we are right now, Dagda, because as I said before, we've got 3 teams, 3-0 in their groups right now. And we're going to be looking towards Group D today.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking at LDLC sitting at 3-0 on the top of the table to see if they'll be able to keep that standing. And as he said, LFL 3-0 for Vitality B, 3-0 for LDC, and it's Carmine Corp who were taken down by a ecstatic X7, I will say, to put the Isle of Man team at the top of Group B. So definitely a lot for these teams to kind of show up over the course of this week and try and prove that they deserve to keep those 3-0 streaks.
Yeah, and it's exciting as well that we have so many groups where it's still very much up in the air, right? Even these 0-3s, they're not out of the running just yet. If they have a great performance today, they can make it back in. But like Group C, for example, totally up in the air on who makes it through at this stage. And even just for the second place positions in each of the other groups, it's all still to play for. We're going to be going through this week group by group. So if we take a look at the games that are going to be coming up to your screen today, it's Group D. As you can see, each of the Group D teams will play 3 times today against each of their opponents. So Dagda, me and you, we're going through our first 3 games today together, starting off with Bisons versus LDLC.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to see how this group is going to pan out. It does feel like LDLC are kind of a cut above a lot of the teams at the moment, but I mean, as we heard from Gabo in the interview, honestly, Atleta kind of gave them a run for their money. I think they gave a good shot at that series where it kind of felt like LDLC just had better understanding of how to play the map, but when it came down to team fighting, when it came down to just throwing haymakers, it felt like Atleta were going to be able to bring it. So I'm excited for some of these games.
I feel like this group has a lot of teams that are more than willing to just go for a play, and that's the kind of League of Legends I love. I love teams that are willing to make a play, and this Bison's lineup is certainly within that list, especially Gooby, a player who is actually very, very experienced on the roster. And if you think back to the Makers lineup that made it to quarterfinals in 2021 spring, Gooby was one of the star players on that roster. So I'm excited to see him back in the forefront once more.
Yeah, and you even think back towards like Random playing on Isuba as well, but we'll have to look across at their opponents here, because when you talk about veterancy, I mean, look at this roster, right? You have DOS, who was promoted from the Misfits Premier roster to play in the LEC. You've got Ica, who's played in ULCS, he's played in NALCS. Like, there are so many people that have kind of been at that upper echelon and looking to get back to that spot as well now.
I mean, when we talk about experience, Ica's more experienced than half of the LEC players are right now in terms of like just sheer time played, but also leagues played in, right? This guy's a bit of a globetrotter. So I'm excited to see what LDLC are bringing to the table today once again, because guess what? They're 3-0, and we'll see if they can keep that streak running. They are the first seed from the LFL after all, but we're in Champ Select Dagda. So let's talk picks and bans. Xin Zhao going to be our first ban today.
I'm going to have to give a caveat to this one where Bison's drafts are bonkers. When you've got a Nasus that you can flex, that can be a flex between everywhere except for top, that's kind of nuts. So I'm excited to see what we bring out to this team. I think it's got some really cool drafts, and as you can already see, the Seraphine being banned away, LDLC are more than aware of what this bot lane likes to play.
Yeah, definitely. The Seraphine gone. Zeri being taken off the board as well. But it's Vistians on the side of Bisons, right? The Zaya, the Ari as well. And then another Enchanter now taken off by LDLC. So I feel like a lot of bot lane focus here in the picks and bans so far, right? 4 bans towards that bottom lane. And a Senna hover. I would have assumed a jungle first pick here, Dagda.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the Senna pick, but Mirwin as well, big Karma player, which is why we're seeing that taken off the board. So, okay, actually going to go for the Soraka lock-in straight off the board. So, I mean, look, we said the drafts don't really follow your normal meta pattern, and we're already seeing this.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I definitely didn't expect a first pick Soraka today, but there we have it. We're going to see it anyway. And I'm looking at that Aatrox hover. We've seen a little bit of Aatrox. We've seen what some of these teams can do when they manage to pull that kind of team together. But it's going to start off with an Aphelios here for LDLC, so a bit more safe and stable and usual so far.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the difference between these two teams. LDLC kind of play your more standard draft, standard League of Legends, whereas Bison, honestly, I think coming into this, they're kind of keeping the Superliga dream alive, the LVP Superliga dream alive of like what we saw from Creme Real Betis back in 2021 of these funky picks. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the Soraka kind of flex between Random and Obscure in the bot side of the map as well. Like, Random's already brought out the Ivor mid in the Amazon EU Masters, so it feels like we'll probably be something. Okay, they came in with a game plan that they don't care about on Bisons. They're just launching into this.
They're just going for global lasers. They've got the global heal laser. They got the global death laser. Like, lasers galore on the side of Bisons right now. I just want to quickly mention that Aatrox hover that we saw from LDLC as well. The first time these two teams played last week, Aatrox was part of that composition. Aatrox, Kha'Zix, LeBlanc, all with a Yuumi for DOS as well. It was brutal. So I think LDLC give it a little nod to that. But now their final lock in the first round, it's going to be an Ornn. They're playing scaling.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like for Ragnar, this is kind of his bread and butter, right? It's much more tended towards like the Gragas's, the Ornns, the kind of the weak side tank top laners, where he's able to kind of provide a little bit more tools of engagement in those later fights. And now we kind of got to see what the plan is, because I honestly thought LDLC might try and pick up something for Ica, especially with the Ahri already taken off the board. Kind of things like the LeBlanc start to rise up in priority, Oriana's, and these kind of things that can do really well in the mid lane matchup and give you a lot of priority, because the way that LDLC tend to play around Ica is he'll kind of be on his own, but they will want to try and like move him around the map to help interact with side lanes, especially if one side of the map is getting a lot of attention. So I think something like a LeBlanc ban could actually work out pretty well here for Bisons alongside that Victor ban.
We'll see Trundle going to be taken off the board as well, not wanting the jungle matchup there, which does make me think that this Karthus could well go down towards that bottom lane if Trundle is being banned away there. Probably Gooby taking that on the bottom side. But now with Yuumi banned away from DOS, as we mentioned, that's what Bisons had to deal with the first time these two teams played. It's over to LDLC. Looks like a blind pick support here. And again, I've been wrong before.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they will go towards the Leona, especially with the Nautilus locked in there. Like, you just get the better side of the matchup. You get to go for these quick engages, set up well for the Aphelios, and kind of just pairs well overall with a strong team fight composition. And I kind of like that LDLC are going, hey, look, we're just going to give Ica the counter pick because we want to see where these picks are going, because there's just so much flexibility what Bison are bringing to the table right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of flexibility. That is the only word that I've got right now, because definitely not a composition that looks consistent, as the Lucian will be locked in. They were hovering a Nami as well, which could mean it is that Karthus jungle after all. And that would mean solo lane Soraka, but also solo lane Nautilus or Karthus mid?
So I'm going to say the Lucian top, because Mirman has played this Lucian into the Ornn matchup before. We've also seen Random play the Karthus, so I think it is Karthus mid. But I think then that's where it gets a little bit funky. So maybe they are actually just going to flex this Karthus to Albatraver in towards the jungle. You've now got the Aurelia as well. But I mean, we've even seen Doinby playing things like the Nautilus mid. So I think it's, again, keeping open a lot of flexibility. And I think if you're going to go for the AP Karthus, I imagine actually it could be the Lucian mid then. So Aurelia, Karthus, Lucian, and then Soraka AD carry potentially here. Who knows at this stage?
You know what, Dagda? Let's find out. Let's let the players decide and figure it out from there. Because at this point, it's like a jigsaw piece, except they're all the same color, so you can't figure it out. On the side of LDLC, though, very stock and standard, right? This is your go-to like scaling composition for this season, right? From every single league that we've seen, these are some of the strongest scaling picks in every single one.
Yeah, I mean, this is just incredibly strong from LDLC. Pretty much bog standard, great team fight, and great level 6 setup as well from the Orianna if you want to try and play through the mid-jungle. And I think that's kind of where Bison are looking at playing, right? When you see the Lucian mid with this Karthus, it's like, hey, look, Lucian will get guaranteed priority in this mid lane, so allow that Karthus to kind of farm, protect him in the early stages, especially from a strong jungler like the Viego. So just make sure that he's able to farm up, and then you kind of answer with a lot of this late game power in the Karthus and the heals from the Soraka, who is going into the AD carry role. So you will see like just kind of farm it up. And I expect then that's also going to lend itself a lot to like opening up this Nautilus to try and roam around. So I'll be expecting DOS to try and move around and try and counteract that, especially in these early stages.
Now, you know, we were talking about Gooby's veterancy earlier on. Like, this is a player that likes to be a little bit weird down in the bottom lane. He's played Soraka twice before in his career. He's won both of those games. So it's a solid pick for him, at least from what I can see statistically. Whether or not they can execute this composition, though, is a different question. Because, Dagda, I mean, what is the game plan when you've got this kind of ragtag team that the Bisons have put together?
Yeah, a lot of it is about like trying to play around the early stages where the Lucian has a good amount of priority and like let the Karthus farm up, right? Like Karthus, very much a farming style jungler, and you want to try and see if you can support that to a certain extent. I think you'll have good priority in the top side of the map as well, just because you've got this Aurelia into Ornn, you can shove the wave. So I think it's trying to facilitate Karthus to scale into the late game, and then you can try and play through like side lanes if you want to with the Aurelia and the Lucian. You've got the opportunity to try and take some of these crazy fights where Aurelia is a frontliner, which can take a lot of beating because you've got the Soraka to back her up. Then your Karthus is providing a lot of damage with your mid laner, so it's kind of like shifting the priority a little bit in who is going to be the actual damage dealers and who's going to be your main tank.
So my question then, Dagda, is if the game plan for Bison is to kind of scale up, do damage later on, well, how good is their scaling comparatively to what LDLC are bringing to the table? Because as I said before, I feel like they've kind of ticked the box in every single lane of like great super scaling late game team fighting champions. Like, can these two drafts match up in the late game?
Yeah, I think the big thing is if Bison is able to allow this Aurelia and this Karthus to get onto the Aphelios, right? Because Aphelios is going to be your mainstay carry in this, where he's got most of your DPS. So I think if you're able to get the Aurelia to dive into the back line, she's got the heals from Soraka, she's then got the ult from Karthus coming in on top of it. That's a lot of damage focus onto this Aphelios, and if you can take him out of the equation, I think that's wonderful. If not, I think this is going to start to fall apart a bit, because you've just got such insanely strong frontliners with the Leona and the Ornn, the Orianna as well, to try and buy space and shields. It feels like when you're going for this kind of heavy dive focus, I will say, from the Aurelia and the Karthus kind of working together, I think you've got a good answer here in LDLC. So I imagine what we'll probably see instead is Bison trying to open up and play some sort of 1-3-1, because I just don't see moments where they'll be able to easily interact with like setting up flanks for the Aurelia to get access to that backline.
Yeah, we'll have to see. One thing I'm just excited about in general as well is the fact that we have LDLC coming in today as first seed from the LFL, the region that has won back-to-back EU Masters over the last two. I feel like right now with a 3-0 record, they're looking good. They're drafting very clean, very clear, like very simple compositions, I guess, in terms of what the win condition is. But when you look at the week 1 games that LDLC had, they weren't all necessarily the cleanest of wins. I feel like that's what we're looking for today, right, for LDLC, is to clean things up just a little bit and try and deny some of the chaos that some of these other teams will bring to the table.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes you just see LDLC getting a bit bloodthirsty. And I don't know if it's a case of like, you know, they are sitting, at least their early games are looking quite strong and good, where they're able to get a ton of vision down early. I think Yike is probably one of the best players that we have, or at least best junglers that we have in the league, and like tracking where the enemy jungler is and kind of setting up his pathing for that. I love the early pathing that we see coming through from Yike. So I think that's going to be a lot of what we're looking for in the early stages. And then kind of looking at them to pull back in the mid game, where it's like, hey, look, we've got one pick, we got two picks, and have that discipline to just go, right, now we will go towards the objective, or we'll reset to get our waves in order. That's kind of the one thing that I've seen missing from LDLC's game plan overall. But I think that's more so a case of, hey, look, they're in the Amazon EU Masters, they've been looking really good in the early stages, and kind of just being a bit disrespectful, honestly, to the teams that are in the group.
Well, I will say, Dagda, that's not the first time we've seen it from a top team, right? A little bit of disrespect. We've seen it before, as you say, and it's somewhat to be expected, especially during the group stage, right? Ultimately, you don't need to go 6-0 if you drop one game. Generally speaking, it's not the end of the world. Now, I know that's not the most hype thing to hear, but realistically speaking, I know that's the way a lot of the players will be thinking about it. It's once you get into the quarterfinals, once you get into the best of series, that's when you've got to really buckle down. So I'm in two minds, Dag, to coming into this one. On the one hand, I want to see LDLC playing clean, playing immaculate. On the other hand, I'd love to see him messing about a little bit. On the other side, though, Bison, we've got plenty of messing about, right? Soraka, bot lane, Lucian, mid, we've got to carve this jungle. Like, I'm so excited to see if they can push their foot forward during this game and challenge LDLC.
Yeah, I remember like LeBron last year from Creme Real Betis back in summer 2021, who was bringing out like the Shakos, the Kanes, the Evelyns, and this kind of stuff. And like, you always have to be wary of what the game plan was going to be. And it feels like that's a very similar story with Bison E Club right now. Because, I mean, you've got, what was it, like 16 unique champions played for the AD carry. You've 21 for the mid laner, 16 as well for Mirren in the top lane. Like, they have so many different picks they bring to the table. Even like the Nasus bot, the Scion bot. Now we're Reaper getting the second one of the Soraka bot this split as well. Like, it's absolutely nuts what BSO Esports Club can do.
And I'm here for it. I'm here for every single second of it, Dag there. But speaking of those weird picks, I think we should talk jungle pathing, because a lot of the viewers might not know how Karthus jungle really operates. It's not a champion that you see that often in the jungle unless you're a high elo player. So talk me through how this Karthus is going to operate throughout the early game.
Yeah, so a lot of what Karthus wants to do is farm, right? And farm as efficiently as possible, get a whole bunch of gold, and then become that big late game threat. So you can already see, right? Like, look at the comparison between the two clears. Like, Yike only now starting up his Raptors, where you got Arbitrator basically an entire camp ahead. And he will be looking to have his lane support him a lot. So that's why you're looking at like the Lucian mid, super good at getting priority against the Orianna. So he can lean into, hey, we need help to get a Scuttle Crab. Right, now we got Bison who have that support coming from the mid lane. We're looking at the ability to lean off up towards the top side as well. And now you've got the Aurelia to make sure that's all good too.
Yeah, we'll see if I mean, obviously, as you say, solo lane's going to have priority in the early game. That's kind of unarguable. Ornn not going to do that much to pressure onto an Aurelia there. My concern is down in that bottom lane. How much does Soraka Nautilus really bring to the table? Is there a conversation here where LDLC can just start stacking Drakes for themselves?
Yeah, I honestly think that's probably the best way for LDLC to play it, because even when you look at like what this squad from the French wants to do, it's like, we want a team fight, right? Like, we want to make sure that we're able to set up correctly, you know, get Ragnar and Doss in the front line, open up space for Exakick to have that Aphelios damage from the back line. And the easiest way to do that is looking at these dragons. And I think Yike has been incredible thus far, kind of like understanding what his goal is in each of the games that he's played, right? And like, this is a very standard clear that you'll see from Yike, where he will full clear, get into the enemy jungle, place that ward that he just put down as he reset, and now you get full information on where the Karthus is. And this happens so frequently for LDLC, and it's something that is really good and makes it really difficult to try and get these early kills against them, because they generally understand like where the jungler is and how best to track it.
Yeah, really good vision coming out to try and track, as you say, and keep on top of that, because that's going to be crucial. Viego, not bad at scaling himself, but I don't think he's going to scale quite as well as Karthus. With that said, though, it is Viego. So at the end of the day, if Karthus dies, which quite often Karthus wants to die during the fights, and then Yike becomes Karthus, well, that's where issues could come along for this side of Bison.
It's also kind of worrying about like how squishy LDLC are. Or sorry, how squishy Bison Esports Club are, right? Because if you get Ica like one big late game shockwave onto like Random, onto the Karthus, onto, I mean, heck, even Gooby as well, like they're just gone. And suddenly now you have that opening for Yike, because there's a bunch of low health targets in there. You start to get these resets. You start to have access to a bunch of these like big CC tools from the Nautilus. Like, that becomes pretty scary if you're on Bison.
It certainly does. And Bison, so far playing it slow, as the TP comes back to the mid lane to make sure the Random's not missing too much in the way of CS here. But look at LDLC invading, trying to take some stuff away from the Karthus. Arbitrator does want to get farm and does want to be able to protect his jungle, but realistically, with this Leona moving in alongside Yikes, Viego, with the reset from Random, it's difficult for him to protect his own jungle.
And it's just good timing from LDLC, right? Ica had push in mid. Doss consistently has push with Exakick and bot side. So Doss just leaves bot side first, links up with Ica and does with Yike. And now you're starting to get that control that you need. And for Bison, this is something you need to stop, because realistically, you don't really have the control from a Karthus to like go for invades in the same way like say a Graves would, right? Because he's got great clear, he's tanky, he's got the ability to escape away. And like, that's kind of how you can work with a traditional farming jungler. But with the Karthus, you just don't really have that tool.
Random going with a culling in the mid lane there just to try and get more pressure onto Ica. Obviously, Ica was not level 6 just yet. Now just ticking over to that level 6 mark. So Random just trying to find pressure there. Not enough, though, to deter LDLC in the early game. We mentioned it before. Going for those Drakes straight off the bat, sorry. At 6 minutes, LDLC going to grab that first Cloud Drake of the game for themselves once Yike finish that one off. So a nice little start here from LDLC. Slow and steady supposedly wins the race, Dagda. Which is kind of crazy, because last time we saw these two teams play, it was a 28-minute game with more than a kill a minute. It was this composition from LDLC with an Aatrox, a Kha'Zix, a LeBlanc, all with a Yuumi on their shoulders. This is a very different version of the squad than what we saw.
Yeah, but what I gotta say is, like, this is kind of standard LDLC, right? Like, when you look at the way that they play the game, it's very slow. Again, like, great vision control. Like, there's one that was just placed by Ragnar in this top side, so they spot out where the Karthus is, right? And, like, you start to think, all right, well, this is gonna be, like, super slow from LDLC. They don't get many kills. And that's not true. They just take their early game incredibly slow. Like, if you look at their first blood rate from, like, the LFL, 44%. Not incredibly high. You look at their goal difference of 15. On average, it's 0. Not exactly very high, especially for a team that came first. But they do have one of the most kills in the LFL as well. Actually, the most kills in the LFL as a team. So it's this mid game where they explode, where they take a very slow approach to the early game, start to build up these little advantages, and then when they hit the mid game, that's where they go nuts.
Yeah, and I feel like you're very aware of that fact, Bagda, because I saw Yike channeling his stun. I saw him go towards Arbitrator. I was ready to go. You just continue talking because you know that it's not happening. They're not actually going to go for a play here. Just trying to get some threat onto the enemy board here. We're almost broaching the 8-minute mark. 3.5 minutes until the Drake comes up, but the Herald is going to be coming up here. And we keep on talking about this priority the LDLC have in the bottom side. That's often used to lane swap your AD carry up towards that top side and go for it.
Yeah, we haven't really seen that from LDLC, though. They've been perfectly happy, honestly, to just, like, keep Exakick bot side, especially when you got an Aphelios here, right? Like, why not just play for the fact Aphelios can take these turrets incredibly hard, and Yike now can make a play top.
Merwin's in trouble. There's the stun onto Merwin. Can he dodge the call of the Forge? Got good flash. Good little resets as well. Bit of damage coming up from the beams. Merwin turning it around. Yike control flashes into the brush, but there's coming out from Ragnar.
And that was a little closer than it was comfortable, I will say,
I'm
for Yike there. Having to flash away from that one, but does manage to escape away. The big thing, though, is that you actually saw Bison trying to make a move down to this bottom side, see if they could link up with the Karthus to have that gank onto Exakick and DOS, but rightfully so, they backed away. And now Exakick knows he's free to just stay in this bot lane. He doesn't need to rotate because there is actually no real threat up towards the top side of those. They say that. Looks like LDLC going to back away with Mirwin TPing in and Random having that priority in mid lane.
Yeah, Ragnar has just finished his boots now, which makes him officially completely and utterly invincible. Let's take another look because it was a damn good try.
Yeah, and I love the way you're playing this as Mirwin, right? Like, consistently going towards the creep so you get the big C, you get the healing off consistently, you're getting the resets on your Q, and especially when you're looking at the use of the W there as well, being able to block so much damage, it just makes it super nice for Mirwin to nearly take them down, but unfortunately, just not quite enough damage in the tank.
Skjor just waiting off to the side of the mid lane, but DOS is here as well, so neither mid laner will be able to do much of that, anything on that one. Arbitrator, though, will get the top side Scuttle Crab. That Herald we talked about, still on the map. Nobody looking towards that one. As you said, LDLC, not a team that historically tries to focus too much on that one. But a 20 CS lead down in that bottom lane. And with that kill, the top lane looking real nice for LDLC as well. It's feeling like a good early game for them. Like, it feels like exactly what we said. This is the game plan, right? Slow and steady, scale up, get your own items, get 3 items on your Orianna and your Aphelios, and then go for the team points.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of get a bit nervous when I just see an Aphelios getting to free farm, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can see he's got the most gold in the game thus far, like, just barely eking out on Random, but he's gonna start being able to take turret plates now against the Serac as well, who won't really have the wave clear that she needs to try and hold off against them, so especially when he gets an Infernum in his back pocket. So I think for Exakick, like, actually staying down here is going to be perfect. You can see there, Infernum picked up, now he gets to approach the tower, and Gooby can't really fight against them, so Exakick will just get to take these turret plates.
Yep, takes a plate for free there. Just extended that gold lead ever so slightly. There's a bit of pressure coming out from Bison. But you mentioned how, like, you know, you're getting nervous watching this Aphelios farm. I'm also nervous for the side of Bisons if you're going into a game where it's straightforward against this kind of veterancy. Like, you know LDLC are gonna be able to win out on map trades. You know that their macro is fantastic. You know that they have the veterancy with players like Ica on this roster to be able to win a straightforward game of League of Legends. When I'm watching these tournaments, I love to see teams like Bisons coming into a game like this and bringing a bit more chaos. And yes, they've gone for a bit of a weird draft, but ultimately bringing much chaos to the board. I say that, though, they've started the second Drake without much pressure to do so.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, is that Bison had a moment to try and go for this dragon if they wanted to, especially when you saw Yike committing resources to the Rift Herald, but instead they tried to make the play bot. They don't really start it up fast enough, and it means that LDLC are able to take the Rift Herald, get the reset that they need from DOS, and then threaten the dragon as well. So you never actually get the opportunity now as Bison to kind of make the counter punch.
Ooh, Shockwave in the mid lane onto Random. He's in trouble. He's low. Gale Force already used. Flash forward as Ica grabs himself a solo kill.
That was gorgeous from Ica, consistently just making sure that he's able to play around the minions, not giving the Culling much time to hit, especially when you've got that Shockwave coming in, and Random goes down. So now LDLC, with no mid laner, they'll happily take this second dragon.
They certainly will, and crucially, Random had a splash available for that Shockwave. Did not expect the amount of damage that was going to come out from Ica. And that's the thing about Orianna. People don't think about this champion as one that's going to look for solo kills. But if you miss position, this champion will punish you hard.
Yeah, and I mean, you could just see it there. Right now, you get to back up as Ica. You're going to be able to finish off your first mythic item as well. TP just about to come up to go into the mid lane. Just kind of clear out these creeps. So it feels like just to finish off that last little bit of gold. But actually, no, not going to reset. So I thought he, at least with the gold there, he'd reset and trying to finish off his the Luton's Echo just to start things off with, but just gonna stick around in mid, and now we gotta see if DOS and Yike can make a play happen, because DOS is hovering around here.
Maybe a chance to try and force a Drake while the Gale Force is there. Random does have his Gale Force on cooldown currently, but it's not long until that one comes back up, and Bison's taking their opportunity to get control of Vision in River. Remember that Drake is still on the board. LDLC got the Cloud Drake to start things off. Nobody willing to commit to this Drake. You can see Exa kick as well. Halfway up the lane, so he'd be able to back away if anything happens. The TP back out from Ica to rejoin in the mid lane. Has now finished that Ludens as a play in the top side. Yike happy to forego the Drake. Great predict from Ragnar. Can they actually shut down this Aurelia? Marwyn diving around the lane, but I don't think he has the damage. There's the stun coming on through. The heal though, last second. Yike in trouble. The second time now, Merwin almost does it.
Yeah, you can see though exactly how long this Aurelia can live though, especially when you've got the help from the Soraka, and also you're gonna have that Karthus damage come through. But unfortunately, Mirwin been kind of put in the dirt here, and it feels like, at least from the Ike side, he's going, look, Dragon would be super nice, getting this Rift Tower would be great, but realistically what we want to do is try to like set Mirwin behind, because that's going to be the main problem for LDLC in team fights. Like, if this Aurelia is able to wipe out Exa kick, well then the Aurelia can probably carry the fight, or at least Random should be able to carry the fight then as the only remaining AD carry. But Mirwin not having the best of times with the attention Yike has gotten, and unfortunately the Karthus jungle just can't respond to that pressure that the Viego's able to put down.
No, not so far. Crucially as well, like, it's a bit of a heartbreaker, you know, that Merwin can't turn the kill around. That's twice now that we see that happen. But another heartbreaker on the other side for LDLC. As the Herald was charging, the plays timed out. So they got one extra play on the top side. Didn't, you know, they get the first tower gold. It's still good to get that tower down, but just a split second too late to get themselves an extra 320 gold. That would have been nice for them. But speaking of gold as well, I just want to quickly mention the mid laner and the bot laner for LDLC. Look at that farm. This is what happens when Aphelios is uncontested to the bot side. Exa kick, I'm not sure he's missed a minion this game. 160, almost 170 CS at 15 minutes. That's well over 10 CS per minute.
Yeah, you can already see the last Whisper picked up as well. Going to end up working up towards the Lord Dominic's regard very quickly, and honestly I wouldn't be surprised to see him pick up like the Bloodthirster third item here as well. Like, usually you'd go for something like the Infinity Edge, but I think with like just that extra survivability against the Aurelia, having the ability to heal up against the Karthus ult is actually going to be pretty impactful, especially if Gooby's going to be providing a bunch of healing from the backline, and you don't really have much in the way of grievous wounds apart from the Bramble Vest top lane, which isn't really going to do too much in fights.
Not for the time being. I feel like we do need to see more of that coming on through. Here's the Ornn combo. Merwin trying to go for the 1v1. That's a lot of armor, though. It doesn't matter. Merwin, when there's no Viego in that top side, finds his opportunity. Yike has to answer in the bottom side. Arbitraber hiding in the brush here. Two people under the tower, both with global ultis, but they won't help necessarily in close range. Exa kick, moving forward, drops his turret. I don't think the dive can happen.
You can see, though, that Ragnar not used to playing a competitive match against the Soraka. Like, tries to go for the 1v1 and forgets that you've still got that ultimate on the Soraka. And I think that's going to be such a big, crucial tool here as the game goes on. But DOS now,
just wants to go on to random. It's going to be the shockwave that goes wide. It doesn't matter. With 3 people strong in the mid lane, LDLC find yet another kill. That's 4 on the board and more pressure onto these tier 1 towers.
And that's a 3,000 gold lead opening up from the kills, from the CS lead we're seeing in the bot side of the map as well. And right now, LDLC still have run of the mill. They still got the opportunity here to like fight with Ica now. Who's got that Luden's Tempest completed. You can start to look towards things like this Rift Herald as well on the top side. Like, you have so many options here for LDLC, and unfortunately for Bison, you know, they just haven't been able to find the moments where you can try and get these early kills on the cart that's like snowball him into an advantage. Because where's your real threat here when you just don't have like your bot lane able to fight against the Aphelios? You've no opportunity here for the Aurelia to find those kills either.
Wait a second, Dagda. LDLC are taking the Herald and the bot lane tower. This is meant to be the trade. This is meant to be the team that doesn't get Herald gets the bot lane tower. Not both. LDLC are taking everything.
Yeah, Bison just went for like quick backs there that meant that they didn't have anyone on the map as LDLC went straight for that Rift Herald. So now Bison kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, right? You've got this Aphelios who's going to be mega fed, like over 200 CS and gotten that turret plate solo. Like, it's not even the fact they got just the turret plate solo. The experience solo that he has gotten is absolutely insane. Like, he's the same level as the solo laners. Like, this Aphelios is huge right now.
He certainly is. 200 CS. As you say, close to finishing off the Lord Doms as well. Like, this is going to get real scary. The thing is, we're talking about a scaling matchup. We've been saying scaling. The word scaling, I'm sick of saying it at this point, because for the last 18 minutes, we've been talking scaling, right? It's a 4,000 gold lead for LDLC, and Bisons want to change that onto the top side. Ragnar, the target here, hooking onto the tower, trying to get the CC chain there, but Ragnar is tanky, knocking them up. But Merwin has enough lifesteal, enough healing. I don't think it even matters.
Yeah, but the problem is you're still losing out on the map. Tier 2 gonna fall on the bot side thanks to that Rift Herald. You got pressure here from Exekick alongside Doss in the mid lane, so your mid lane tier 1 is nearly going down. This isn't really a trade up for Bison despite the kill.
Wait, this Herald is gonna get a charge on the inhib tower as well. Nobody here to stop it. That's gonna be a bonus charge. It's a 1-for-1 trade in terms of towers. A tier 1 for a tier 2, not favoring so Bison here. And I feel like we're looking at Merwin, right? This is the guy that's got to carry on the side of Bison based on what we're seeing so far this game.
Yeah, but I'm also looking at his build and kind of scratching my head a little bit. Like, you go for the Blade of the Rune King, and now you got the Sunfire. All right.
All right. Hey, you said you needed him to frontline of the team fights. I guess he got that memo.
Yeah, I just don't know if I'm fully sold on this. I honestly think like going in towards like the Gore Drinker, like the ability to kind of like provide even more healing is going to be a lot better. Even if you want to go for something like the Triforce as well, to be perfectly honest, like I think Triforce, when you've got so much healing on you, innately makes you tanky. So having the Triforce, having the Blade of the Rune King kind of like synergize super well together, and you got a ton of burst that you can try and get onto this backline. I don't know if I fully agree with the Sunfire in this situation. Like, yes, you'll be tanky and you'll have a good amount of sticking power onto something like Exekick, but I think you've got so much innate sustain that you're going to be tanky regardless of what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he's going to be able to have that sustain. One thing I will say, in his defense, at least it's fairly safe to assume there's going to be a lot of mortal wounds coming out on the side of LDLC. It's been a while since we've seen any recalls, but you can anticipate at some point the Oblivion Orb coming out from Ica. Exekick, I maybe wouldn't expect him to build healing reduction himself, as maybe Yike can go for that instead, but you can anticipate healing reduction, so maybe just wanted to go pure tanky stats. I don't know. I don't know why I'm trying to colour right now. I'll leave that one to you, Dagda, but yeah, we'll have to see how this Sunfire Aurelia is going to work out for Merwin. I have to say, though, whether it works or not, regardless of what happens for the rest of this game, I'm loving what Merwin is bringing to the table. Takes this Aurelia, almost 2v1s twice, finds a solo kill, now go for a Blade of the Rune King with a Sunfire. Like, I'm totally on board with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Blade of the Rune King is going to give him a bunch of percentage health damage regardless, so still will be able to do some damage. I just don't know if you'll have the burst damage to take out Exekick, like, alongside the Karthus to actually make it worthwhile is my biggest worry. And even if you wanted to try and play side lanes, it just feels like Triforce does more. But I'll digress anyway as we start to move on, because LDLC, we talked about how strong their vision game is. Already you can see it setting up in this top side jungle. Like, they've got control there just off the side of mid lane. You've got that top side ward as well. Like, this is how LDLC tend to play out their objective focus, and it's always so good to see, because honestly I think they're the best sporting team.
Oh, big all in the mid lane. That's a combo and a half right there. Obscure gets healed though, back to full HP. Now a laser across team. In comes Merwin, looking for recess, looking for Qs. 1 kill already. Culling gonna go wide on this one, but Ragnar, damn tanky, difficult to deal with. But Merwin practically invincible. LDLC start the fight, but it's actually even.
Yeah, LDLC not quite able to get what they wanted. Merwin goes forward though.
Oh, misses the knockup. Ragnar kind of fumbled this one. He's CC'd. Merwin gets a heal. In goes Yike to try and find the reset. Soroka now, he can heal his own team, but he's a little too late on it. Random finds the kill. And now the chase down. Looking for the stun. Dodged by Random. He's trying to get into the rush, trying to play with vision. Yike on the chase down. Ika's there for the double kill on the dissonance. Ika wants more too. Shockwave on cooldown. But LDLC are happy with that.
And they still have their jungler. They still have a ton of damage. They can turn straight over towards this Baron. And for Bison, they've got to look on and kind of shake their heads. That little overextension now costing them so much.
Beautiful stuff from LDLC, and Bison so close to beautiful, right? And that feels the story of the game this entire time. We keep seeing it with Merwin in the top side, almost 2v1ing. We keep seeing it with the play from Random trying to be aggressive in the mid lane, but going down to Ica. It feels like Bison are so close, and yet so far, time and time again.
And now, one more.
All in onto this Karthus. Can they actually finish this one? I'm not sure if they've got the damage. Apparently they do, but Yike, no ultimate available. That means he's got to get out of dodge. Shockwave, though, from Ica to protect his jungler. Beautiful bit of team play from LDLC.
Yeah, so they will just escape away. Won't get the cherry on top with the Baron and the kill onto the Karthus, but they are going to be able to escape happy regardless. And we'll see here, right? Like 3 members underneath this mid lane turret, but they don't spot that Lucian is actually wrapped the whole way around. So they think that they got the opportunity to dive the tower, but the healing comes through. The ultimate from the Karthus still means that he's got uptime in this fight despite the death. And Mirwin, with a great TP straight in behind LDLC, is able to just absolutely decimate them. But again here, Mirwin going that little bit too far forward. And even though we have the 1-for-1 thus far, just takes that terror shot, and that's the go button for LDLC.
I'm not sure, Dagda, I don't know if you know this interaction. If anyone on Twitter can let me know. I think Ragnar hit his pillar there, but because it was in the Soroka silence, I think it might have not done the knockup because of that. I'm not especially sure on that one. It looked a bit funky, but that's cool. If that's the interaction, that's really cool. Really nice follow-up, obviously, from LDLC there. Ica getting the double kill, along with the Calibrum from Exakick. And now we've been talking about control. We've been talking about how LDLC play the map. Well, Dagda, they're almost 8,000 gold. They have complete and utter control. The Drake is there if they want to go for the Ocean Soul. They already have the Baron in their pocket. They can really start to take over. They might just look to snowball this one into a win here. Remember, their first win against Bisons was 28 minutes. We had more than a kill a minute. It's been a very different pace of game in terms of those kills, but not if LDLC just wipe Bisons a few times before they finish the Daces.
You've even got Dragon this up as well, which LDLC can try and fall back to after this push, but they just want to try and get the most out of this Baron push. Just 50 seconds left, so they'd only get another wave, so they decide to back away instead. And it feels like you just go to Dragon, get the third one. They can kind of start to siege up, slowly play out this game, and wait for the next Baron to come up. Wait for that 5 minutes until this next Ocean Dragon Soul is available for LDLC. And with the amount of controls they have on the map, when you've got these Ornn items that are starting to come through as well, it just becomes so hard for Bison to try and make this fight happen.
We see a reset coming out from Albatraver. The Drake on the map right now, Yike on the bottom side. I feel like you just take the Drake just because it's there, right? Even if you're not looking for Drakes necessarily. Like, this is just on a silver platter. You have to go with this Drake at this point for LDLC. You've got everything. Why not finish it all off? But then the question is, how do they continue with this pressure? As we've said, that bottom lane inhib tower already gone down thanks to the... Remember, that Herald charged about half an hour ago, it feels like, at this point. That's going to help them open up the map. The Baron now down, but I don't think that's going to stop LDLC.
No, they're perfectly happy. You've got this insane front line, the ability to dive whenever you want, and Lucian was spot on the top side, so they're just going to take the turret.
TP coming on through. Yike has to ult defensively over the wall here. And I think LDLC will survive. They'll back away safely, but it is going to be one ultimate used. In trade of a TP, I think they're probably happy with that, but even still, it's something for Bisons.
Yeah, and it means that the TP won't be up for the next Dragon fight as well, so LDLC kind of have that in their back pocket, but the wave is still going to hear, the tower is still going to go down, and now the fight happens.
Oh no, Random's in trouble. That's Inferno on everybody. Huge combo coming out. LDLC, though, they've got a laser on their heads. Merwin trying to get some resets as well, but he just doesn't have the damage. The healing ain't enough. A Skirl going to be knocked up and will be taken down. It's Yike on the Aurelia now, and he finishes him off. Turns into a unicorn instead. Time to heal the team with the Wow ambulance. And now, time to break the game open. Exaking has damage and a half to finish this one off. Ica doing massive damage in the fights as well. But I feel like Yike has been the central point for LDLC this game. He's been the one going in alongside Ragnar's ultis. Beautifully done here from the LFL representative, the first seed, who are looking for a flawless day and a flawless group if they can keep this kind of performance.
Not a bad start to that day as well, going 2-4-0, and a very confident win as well, has to be said, coming through from LDLC. And I think, again, like, this kind of showcases what the strengths of this team are, like having this slow-paced early game, using the vision to their advantage, finding these small advantages in lane, and then when we get to the mid-game, they just open up to these great team fights, again, utilizing that vision that they've already set up. And yeah, at times they can go a bit over-aggressive, they do get a bit bloodthirsty, but they're just so good in the fight and also on the map. It makes it hard to shoot them down.
Really clean game coming out from LDLC. That's what we wanted to see coming in, and that's what we got tied up in a nice little bow. So LDLC 4-0 in the group now. We're going to jump into a break, but don't forget to stick around, because afterwards we're going to go into Atlanta, looking to get that first win on the board up against the Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition.